Folks, having friends who are in the business of investing in real estate is a true joy because sometimes they ask you questions that really prompt you to think about something. And Dion just asked me, has anybody ever reviewed your portfolio? And the answer is no, no one has, which really led me to the idea of, if I had to do it again, would we build the same portfolio? So I think Dion and I are going to talk about this kind of in retrospect. You know, what would we do different? What would we look to get? Because I can tell you, I would not want to build my portfolio today starting from scratch. And I think that might surprise people. So Dion, thank you for sparking this idea.
So about, what is this, August? 15 months ago.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I tricked you and Matt, the lumberjack landlord, by making a YouTube channel, growing it to 14,000 subscribers, and interacting with you guys on a weekly basis because I was getting ready to retire. I'd been investing for about a decade and I was getting ready to pull the trigger. And I thought, if somebody invests in stocks for 30 or 40 years, they have a financial advisor. And they have somebody that goes through and looks at their entire portfolio and says, okay, here's your allocations, here's your timeline, here's your risk mitigating factors. They have somebody that's hopefully trained, educated, and has their best interests at heart review their portfolio. So about 15 months ago, just before I retired, I said, hey, let's do a portfolio review. And I got you guys to make a video looking at literally what my cash flow is, what my debts are, what my property diversification strategy is, and then what would you do different? And the answer was, really the only thing that we came up with that was different was recycling capital versus cash flow. I had a paid off property. Right. You guys thought I should take a loan out on.
At 3 point, below 4%, we said.
Correct, at 3% interest, which is probably what I would have got at the time. So great advice, right? So that was the one thing that was a difference with. So after having that, I had the confidence to sit back and go, well, if those guys couldn't find a flaw and I can't find a flaw and I'm 4 times my freedom number, why am I working? And then I retired. I've been retired now a year. And I gotta tell everybody, I highly recommend it.
Yeah. You are now unemployable, as I like to say.
Absolutely unemployable. So if I was going to start my portfolio now and go forward 10 years, which means I would have to become employable.
Yeah, sure.
The one thing that's very different between you and Matt and me is I think I would rebuild almost exactly the same portfolio. Yeah. I would house hack, probably work for 2 years to do another house hack, work for 2 years, save up down payments, hunt in my same area for the same yield, and know that financial freedom happens probably in less than 10 years because the starting position the first time was very low income. Yeah. A lot of bad debt I didn't know about until the divorce. And those are things, and now I don't have my kids living at home either. Things I didn't, things I wouldn't have now that I did have then. So it would be a faster timeline.
I think that's amazing. I think that's amazing. I don't know many people, who have been in the real estate investing game more than 10 years ago. You know what? I would do it exactly the same way. And it doesn't surprise me at all. And frankly, I think a lot of people that watch the channel are like, I'm Team Dion, right? The lazy way, the small way. I wish more people realize that you can earn financial freedom under 20 units. It drives me bonkers that people think it's 100 or 1,000. And I just love the fact that you're like, dude, I do it the same way. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, so we did a video last week, and I forget what the topic was, but there was a whole bunch of comments of, I'm on Dion's side. It was, what do we disagree on? Right. And everyone under every metric would have to say, you and Matt are more successful portfolio size, cash flow size, generational wealth creation, like all of these major factors. But I think there is a portion of our our viewers, right, where financial freedom is the goal, not the measurable metrics.
I want to correct you. I don't think it's some. I think it's a majority. I saw I look at every comment, right? And I think most people, and let's be clear, that's the right answer, right? I talk about freedom number and this, that, the other thing. It's like, hey, go beat your monthly nut. Enjoy life. Be happy. Yeah, Matt and I did it another way. Our numbers may sound better. They're not better. They're different. They're not better. You win by being done. You won. Congratulations.
what I really like about your content, and one of the things that attracted literally 2018, this is why I started wanting to get involved with it, is you had over 100 units, right? You had a really good job. You had a good career, you know, all of those things, but it was get to 4.
Yeah.
Right. It wasn't, well, here's, you know, you didn't turn in the grant card down going, well, if you don't start with 16, you're just stupid. Because
Yeah.
that's
You're
what I
an
wouldn't
idiot.
look at even less than 32, you know, but
Yeah.
no, he had a single family house
He did.
at his start. Your initial goal, get to 4. That got you on the road. And then you can go, 4 was good, or 4 is
Yeah.
half of what I want, or 4 is the door. And now I can blow up into this, you know, Cody and Christian, hundreds is a start kind of attitude. And we don't know who we are until we start and get to that 4.
I
Um,
agree.
yeah. And then we actually
Yeah.
had a conversation. I was thinking I would get to 4 mortgages because at that point in time, that was about what the lenders would let you have.
Right.
Our very first interview, I was on your channel as a guest.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, you just randomly said, because they had shifted it to 10, you said,
Right.
well, I don't know why you don't go to 10. And I thought, I don't know why I don't go to 10 either. And I wouldn't have had that thought if the goal was like 100 or 200. It was just get to 4.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
realize once I realized that, I don't know, maybe if I was 30, I would think I would want more growth because of who I was at 30. But when in my 40s, it was time freedom. Time freedom beat everything else as far as what was important. And it can be time freedom to make more money if I
You know,
wanted to,
I'm glad you
or
brought that
not.
up because that is one of our differences. Matt started when he was in his 20s. I started at 30. So maybe it's the piss and vinegar of being a young adult, a young male with all the testosterone, who knows? Um, yeah, if I started at 50, I can guarantee you my portfolio would be a lot closer to yours. And one of the things I would admit to, if I had to,
Yeah.
you know, I would not rebuild a portfolio of over 100 units. Let's just say that right now. It's done amazing. The numbers are great. You know, I'm here, so I'll take it. But if I had to go into a time machine with my knowledge, it would be fourplexes and below. Right. I would still probably do the 1031s at the peak because you had to get out because of again, it was terrible. Right. So I would have done that, but I probably would have 1031 back in to houses probably. Well, I sold some stuff in 18, so I probably would have done that. My goal of a portfolio would be, I mean, ideally it'd be 20 single family homes, easiest to manage, least turnover, most liquidity, best financing. Right. If I had to design a portfolio, it'd be 20 single family homes. That's what I would do.
That's so funny. That's almost exact. I'm at 18 units that I consider, other than my fourplex. That's the only one. And even that, it's townhome style with their own garages. Every other unit has its own fenced yard.
Yeah,
They're all,
that's
except
exact.
for
Yeah.
the one I'm living in, is side by sides. It feels like a home.
Right.
And I've said a few times, I don't know if I want this many, because I can actually increase the cash flow by offloading 1 or 2. And if 3% interest rates weren't such an asset, I might have actually considered that. You know, if I had 6 or 7% interest on
Yeah.
some
If
of
you
these,
have
I might.
3% debt, Dion, don't pay that off. What are you doing?
No. So that's the reason why I had the $500,000 sitting in the bank over this last year, and I was considering, what do I do? Pay off debt, add things. I didn't want to take $100,000 and buy 5 $400,000 duplexes, right? That was an option. I could have hunted for those
Sure.
and found them, but that would have added 10 more units to manage. I thought, okay, well, I'll do a burr.
Yeah.
And then I found a burr house hack. So I've added, you know, up to the 18 units. I completely see the attraction when I go and I visit Matt. I just spent a week in Boston seeing Matt, and I was like, he could have any 5 of any vehicles he wants on the planet, and he drives a rattle trap that everything is falling apart on. So he's broken inside as far as the spending goes.
Yeah, no
But
doubt.
the cash flow, we went around and I made a short, and it did really well. It was, you know, hey, we would go around and look at Matt's entire portfolio, but he probably doesn't remember which ones he owns because he has over 100
Yeah.
units in that area. I see the attraction of, once that's done, what it's worth. But then I also saw how many units he's currently overturning, how many rehabs he's doing, the teams he's managing of handyman contractors, and I'm doing
And he's
one.
working while doing all this.
and he's working while doing and raising, 3 kids under 5, right? It's
Yeah.
like, oh, you put all that together. And people would go, if you looked at the numbers, would you rather have, I don't know what his numbers are, annual income versus my income? Everybody would say, well, obviously, I want to be the rich guy.
Right.
I want to be the wealthy, free guy.
Yeah. It's what I really appreciate about last week's video is if you take our numbers and you divide by number of hours, I suspect you're the highest, and it might not even be close. So you could say being lazy. I call it being efficient. Again, I think Team Dion is the right answer for most people. Again, if you're 20 years old and you're Cody and Christensen, go for it. If you're Lattes and Lease, which was on my channel, and you're 23, go for it. If you're 30 and you want to make it your career for 20 years, I'm 51 now, go for it. But at some point, you take your foot off the gas. You add 1 or 2 a year if you want to, not because you have to, because you can, and you enjoy life. Life is so much better when you don't have to show up for your job. So I think 20 houses is what I would go for. Maybe it's 25, but I would not own C-class apartment buildings if I had to do it all over again, for sure.
Yeah, that's not an asset class I would actually want to own either. I'm mostly small multifamily, the fixed rate debt, the fire and forget. I've never had a loan reevaluation period. Looking at the one DSCR loan I was looking at making offers on, I didn't even like having to make a personal financial statement, although it was eye-opening to go,
Yeah. Ooh, it's a
who's
big
that
number.
rich guy? Because that doesn't seem like me. But yeah,
That's funny.
yeah, weird how this works.
Yeah. Yeah. So at the end of the day, I think Gary Vee talks about this, and I'm trying to push it where I can, is if you're happy, you win. And number of units doesn't equate to happiness. In fact, number of units could lead to stress and, just sleepless nights. It's about being happy. I think financial freedom, happy choices, options come with income greater than your monthly nut. And you know what I think is really crazy is most people have no idea what that is. They don't know what life costs, their life costs, which I think is crazy.
Yeah, a lot of my very first videos, like the very first year, was trying to focus on financial freedom because so many people, what is it going to take to retire? They'll name a number, 5 million, 10 million.
Yeah.
I've had somebody's 250,000, whatever the number is. So you're like, okay, great. This is a blank slate. If you're receptive to some information, let me elucidate how simple this can be. And then it's a monthly number that you don't have to sell your life for 1 hour at a time that gets you freedom. And then how do you find that number? Most of us have that data. It's in the last 6 months of data of what we've been spending on. Some things that will change. Healthcare will cost more. Most everything else will cost less because you're not saving for retirement. You're paying less in taxes. You're not commuting for work. Like, you just go over some simple concepts like that. And that's really why I love the get to 4 concept of one rental at a time, because you start to see at 4, that's really when the math starts to hit of, I might not be making a lot of cash flow per unit. Maybe somewhere a couple $100, $500, whatever it is, which is not an important number because yield is what we want to really look at.
Right.
But 4 of those added up that aren't alligators is a significant life-changing event to then go, do I need the fancy car? Do I need the expensive vacation? Do I need the big, huge house for a period of time? Because if I can just do this a couple of times, it's really weird. I feel really bad when I interact with most people, because how am I interacting with people? They're serving me at a restaurant. They're helping me at a Lowe's or a Home Depot. They're working on the cruise ship, which I have next month. You mentioned the cruise earlier. I forget where you're going. I'm going Mediterranean. It's my first one.
I'm doing Alaska again.
Yeah, Alaska. That was my last one. So I'm interacting with most people. One of the reasons I'm really trying to get interactive with people here on YouTube is, hey, my contractors are here.
It's all right. Just finish up.
That's okay. It's last burr. These guys expect me to be awake at 8:44 in the morning. Are they crazy? They don't know who they're working for. Kidding. These guys are awesome. I'm going to make videos recommending each one of them to the local community here.
That's awesome.
But I'm interacting with the
Yeah.
handyman and contractors. And I'm like, why don't you're doing the work for guys like that never have to work, and I'm happy to pay you, but why don't you get a rental?
Yeah.
Oh, it's too much work. Well, because all they see is the rehabs.
Right.
They don't see the
Exactly.
finished product.
There you go. Well, Dion, I know you got to go. Where can people find you?
Right here on YouTube, Dion Talk Financial Freedom.
Thank you, buddy.